You can be any shape, size, anything.
Yes, absolutely.
Any look is like acceptable. That kind of person that I always thought I want my kids to know the good and bad about me. We don't get into certain things, but I want them to know like the mistakes I've made and the triumphs I've made so that they can either avoid those or make their own path. I'm the one that always jokes around. I will still be twirling those tassels at 80.
Influencer Insight shares the battles, stories, successes of models, influencers, and entrepreneurs as they find the balance of being influential leaders today while creating long-lasting impact for the future.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another session of Influencer Insights, where I have Misty Reardon from Pueblo, Colorado, joining me today. Misty is been a model for 35 years, also moved into the burlesque department a little bit later on in life, and in the last 12 or so years, she's been doing the burlesque thing. And Lolita Shadows is her stage name as she goes by, so you might have seen her at some of her shows. So welcome, Misty. Thank you for joining the podcast today.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Sure. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey. 35 years in modeling. That's how did you get started doing that?
Well, right after high school, I had seen an ad in a local newspaper, that this woman was opening a modeling agency and classes.
Nice.
And I just thought, let's try it, because I'd always wanted to be a model.
Nice.
And she and I connected not only in a business sense, but as good friends. And she kind of brought me into the agency, and I got to assist her with a lot of different things. So I've gotten to see both sides of the modeling world from the inside out.
Cool.
And I did a little bit with her, nothing major. And then along my years, I have just had a lot of different modeling experiences, and it's really taken a lot more of a turn in the past 8 years, I believe.
More social media, that kind of thing.
It was kind of a surprise at my later age, because I wasn't expecting to really continue this long.
Sure. Kind of something you were going to try probably back then, and then here we are, right? So.
Right. And here I am 35 years later at the age of 53.
Models, join us on Facebook in our group, where we've got all kinds of support and training you need to become a better model today. Check the link in the description.
And still doing the same thing.
Good for you. Do you mind if I ask, going back then, I guess like modeling now is a whole different realm, because we get influencers and Instagram and everything. What did it look like to get started back then? Like, did you just go to studios to get shoots and stuff like that to get started, or how was that?
Yeah. I started building my portfolio with a small studio, local.
Nice.
And I did apply for a bigger modeling agency, and it was a lot more difficult with them. So I kind of just strayed back away from them.
Right.
I'm only 5'3", so I really didn't fit the model type back then,
Right.
And I also had a little bit more meat on my bones than some of the models at that time, It was definitely a lot more difficult to get jobs then. Now it seems like there's a space for everybody.
Yeah.
The lines have definitely blurred for the models. I mean, with all the influencers, you can be any shape, size, anything.
Yes, absolutely.
Any look is like acceptable now.
It's almost promoted or thrived on in today's society almost, right? So
it is.
Oh, that's cool.
Which kind of goes hand in hand with the burlesque, because, it's very inclusive as well.
So when you started in the burlesque thing, was it so much inclusive, or is that kind of also evolved a little bit in the last 5-6 years as well? Or has it been kind of inclusive all the way through since you've been a part of it?
It's always been pretty inclusive. However, I have seen a lot of difference in the inclusivity has to be there even more now.
Okay. Yeah.
You have to ensure that your shows have BIPOC and all genders and LGBTQ inclusive. And our favorite saying is every body is a burlesque body. So that's how we like to be more inclusive.
And so important because, performing is an interesting thing because it's all a little bit about the attraction and the visual thing, and people like to see variety of things, right? I think everybody likes to see different angles and different people's walks and that sort of thing in life, right? So
Right, right. Yeah. And I love to see different people create things that I would never have thought of. Maybe I'm a little bit more on the classic side
right,
more than neo, and to see some of the newer people coming out with such amazing creativity,
sure,
it is
totally.
wonderful.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. So let me think here. 35 years as a model, 12 in burlesque. So it's kind of like 20-ish years that you were in the modeling and then decided to move into the burlesque. Were you kind of just thrown into the burlesque thing as well, or did you evolve into that?
You know, so I had spent the majority, about 16 years, better part of 16 years, in the strip clubs.
Okay,
And that was like my thing. And then, of course, I got too old for it
right,
because they are ageist, which I get it. It's
sure,
a business. But I still wanted that outlet, that creativity. And I was
yeah,
following some models on Facebook. And then burlesque started kind of popping up on my feed.
right,
And I was like, now that I could possibly do at my age. I was like 41, and
yeah,
I was like, probably do that. Let's try it. And it just happened that a local woman was doing classes, and I jumped on it. And from the very first class, I was hooked. It has just been an addiction. I mean, I
right,
spent a little over a year kind of getting my feet wet, and learning and following. And then I did take a couple of years off, but when I went back, it was like there was no way I was going to stop. I'm the one that always jokes around. I will still be twirling those tassels at 80.
just own it wherever you are, right? So
Exactly. I mean, the legends, they can get away with it. So can I.
there you go. And the big part of it, right? Because you were looking for the dancing you'd been doing before, but how do I move that into just a
Right.
different season phase of life, right? So
Right. And this was even better because I didn't have to deal with the BS basically from the strip clubs. I mean, you got a lot that goes on there.
I can
There's a
only
whole lot
imagine.
of drama. There's a whole lot of things that can really tear you down, too,
Yes,
let's
yes,
face it. And this was just the way for me to do it and really put more into it, put more creativity and more actual dance.
yes,
Because I had been a dancer all through school.
right.
So it was just kind of like, I've got to do something with my life,
Yeah,
and dance has always been it. And this was it was the perfect niche for
nice.
me.
Did you? I'm not super familiar with the backgrounding of those kind of things, but I mean, management at maybe a strip club would be a little bit different than a burlesque club and that kind of thing. Have you found just a different community of people that kind of evolve in the different locations and that kind of thing as well, or?
Yeah, well, in burlesque, the laws are very, very different from strip clubs and
Okay,
things. Obviously, you have to have your bits covered, you have to have the pasties and the G string. And some of the clubs that I worked at were all nude. So you could go down to nothing. And of course, you can't do that in burlesque shows.
no,
And then, of course, there's like the things like the lap dancing and stuff. That's not a burlesque
don't
thing,
need to
at
worry
least
about
not
that.
where I'm from. That's something that we could get in a lot of trouble for.
Yeah, of course,
So, yeah, a lot of the difference is not just the creativity, but it's the laws. There are
sure.
very different laws.
And a lot of that's somewhat to do with safety and somewhat of just people's preferences and that sort of thing too, right? So
Yeah, absolutely.
interesting transition. And sometimes the people that live listening to our podcast are they're early in their careers or they're getting out of school and they're thinking about where do I go with this in life. And it's interesting to hear your story, kind of making that progression, right? Where you've made a career out of this, whether, some people can't get the first thing under their belt, but moved along with it as time has gone on too. So
Yes, and it's only been the last year that I've gotten into producing and the classes,
okay,
and I've become an MC. So I've played it real small for the last several years, for the first decade, and then I just
sure,
kind of hit that point in my life. The kids were grown, that's done, and I'm able to do whatever it is for me. And this is just my time when I just really kind of dug into it, and it's paid off.
yeah,
Not
for sure.
monetarily, but it's paid off in great experience.
Well, that's worth something too, and probably instilling some wisdom into other people, the younger people coming up and stuff like that's worth something too, right? So,
Right.
how much of the coaching do you get to do for the other dancers and that kind of thing?
Well, so I run an 8-week course
Oh, cool.
in which I have 2 assistants that help me. We have a nice little dance studio. We meet once a week for 8 weeks.
Nice.
And we go over the history and the legends of burlesque, because that's
Okay.
really important for us. We teach the art of the peel and basic dance moves and how to make pasties and twirl the tassels.
Right.
And just, we incorporate a lot of how to really go out and start your burlesque career. At the end of the 8 weeks, we have a showcase and they perform, and then we give out a diploma. And, we also incorporate a lot of confidence boosting, because a lot of people get into it for that.
Yeah, I would imagine.
It is a way of letting go of inhibitions and just really finding themselves.
Sure.
And so that's what I like to concentrate is, let's build your character, build your acts, teach you how to go out there and get booked.
Yes.
I want to ensure that all of my students and all of my performers that belong in my group, it's an independent performance group, so they're not under contract, but we're a resource center for them and a kind of a safe space.
Yeah.
So
for
that they can get booked, stay booked, and follow their dreams.
Right. Double check when things are feeling a little sketchy or whatever, right? So
Right.
how many people going through your course are like looking to become performers versus some that are just maybe doing it for a hobby or a part-time thing kind of thing?
Well, we have small classes because we are in a small city. And so my first class, we only had 4 people. In this one, we have 5. And the first one, they all have wanted to go out and actually do it.
Okay.
And so far in the new class, it seems like there's 4 of them that actually want to perform on a regular basis, and 1 that's just like, no, I just want to feel good about me. And so, and then sometimes people go through it and they think, oh, there's no way I'm performing. There is no way that I'm actually going to make anything out of this. And they go on to do it for years.
Is that right?
And they find themselves.
Probably a little bit of a light bulb moment, probably as a coach, that you see in people too when they find it. Right?
It is. It definitely is. My daughter, who is 24, was one of my very first students.
Oh, is that right? Okay.
And to see her out there just kind of floored me. I had no idea that was in there.
Where'd all that come
All
from?
those years of raising her, I didn't ever see that part of her.
Yeah. Until
she got on that stage, and I was like, wow. And you see that through so many people. You have no clue that little fire is burning down deep in them until they get out there, and then, boy, they just blow you away.
Give them that opportunity and they just take it. Yeah. So, not gonna lie, probably not gonna become a burlesque dancer myself, but what are kind of like the top, if somebody was looking at getting into that themselves, like, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 things that they should know right off the bat before they jump into class?
Well, definitely research your coach, the headmistress or whatever of the school that you're wanting to take classes from. Research, make sure that they come, you want other performers to say, hey, yeah, they're pretty decent. They're good, try them.
Right.
Because word of mouth is huge, especially in this industry. Everybody knows everybody pretty much. Like within the first year, I knew performers from all around the world.
Wow.
So
that's crazy.
Pay attention when the elders and the legends and those that have been in the industry for a long time, when they talk, listen, pay attention, learn. This is not I learned something and now I know everything. No, you're going to learn all your life.
Right.
Take as many master classes as you possibly can. If you see like a 1-hour class being offered on, say, chair dancing or floor work or costuming, take it. If you possibly, those are really important. And boy, are they a learning tool. You can learn so much, especially from the legends. If you get the legends doing master classes, you want to take those. Get in a group, because even if it's not a contracted troupe, you can always find groups of performers that want to get together and want to work with each other and bounce ideas off each other and have nights where you just sit down and do costuming, and those are always fun. And you need the support. Find a good support base, I guess. That's pretty important, I believe.
Key piece.
Right. And just find your niche in it. Find what makes you happy, not what you think everybody's going to want to see, what you want to do.
Good advice.
Find yourself within it and stay true to yourself in it.
Sure.
I'm not saying you have to be who you are on the outside. No, by no means.
Yeah.
But that persona is definitely a part of who you are deep down, because you can't fake that much.
True. You can try, but it comes through, right? So.
Right.
Has Misty ever had those, I guess, maybe a period of life that you went through, you were trying to perform for what you thought people wanted versus, what you wanted to do yourself?
I think when I first started, I kind of thought that I had to be a certain way. I was told at one point by somebody that I should put more comedy into my acts.
Okay.
Because I was heavier at the time, and basically I was told I was too heavy to try to be as sexy as I was trying to be, which was not okay to have been told. I don't feel like I'm that funny a person, and I wasn't going to work through comedy on the stage when I knew that wasn't me.
Right.
So I did try to conform a little more, and then I started realizing, who am I performing for in the first place?
Sure.
It's me.
Right.
I'm performing for me in the first place. So if I'm not enjoying what I'm doing out there, I might as well not be out there.
True enough.
So I just do what comes for me.
Nice. Can you give us a little insight on your show, kind of the things that you were going to put something together yourself? What would you be?
Well, I do actually have a regular show. We perform once every 5 to 6 weeks.
Okay.
At a local bar called the Downtown Bar. And the owner, we've worked with him for many, many, many years. He's wonderful. He makes sure we have everything we need for the show. And it's free admission to get in.
Pretty good deal.
So everybody just throws as much tips as they want, plus we're guaranteed to pay.
Nice.
And I have 10 performers generally, and we do 2 acts each.
Okay.
I try to make sure I have a very well-rounded show. I like not just burlesque performers, but I like boylesque. I like drag. We've had a live singer, a belly dancer. One of my troupe members is actually a belly dancer as well.
Tough skill
So
there.
we just kind of incorporate everything in. I
Nice.
like to have just a variety.
Variety show.
Once in a great while, I'll put on a classic show and I'll
Okay.
tell everybody, hey, the theme for this one is classic all the way.
We're going back. Yeah.
And those are fun too. Those are a lot of fun. I don't do a lot of themes because I like to give people more creativity.
Sure.
I like for them to be able to do a lot more with their acts.
Sure. So do you get a piece? I know burlesque, a big part of it is the costume piece. So do you have a hand in creating all that for your show, or do you let the performers just do their own thing? And
everybody creates their own costumes. If they need assistance, I'm always there. We work together within our group. If somebody needs help with a costume, I will usually help. I do a lot of sewing, so I'm able to help with some of that for most of the performers. But for the most part, everybody is in charge of their own costuming.
What for people trying to get into burlesque, what are some places that ideas of inspiration you get for getting costumes? You go to thrift shops, you just watch old shows, or
all of it, yes. Thrift shops, those are fabulous for burlesquers because it's a great way to keep costs down and find really unique pieces. One of my favorite, very sparkly, beautiful gowns I found at a thrift store for $6.
There you go.
So, great way to keep costs down. And, movies, music, you can hear a song and it'll just bring to mind something that you just have to portray on the stage.
Interesting.
Or any kind of an act, any kind of an idea, something can happen to you in your life. And it's just, okay, this has to be told in a story. So I'm going to take this to the stage. And you draw inspiration from everyday things to extraordinary things, whatever. The imagination is limitless on it.
Sure.
And that's what's really great about it, is because you don't have to stick to one spot in order to really portray what you're wanting out on that stage.
Just keep building and building over time if you want, right? So.
Oh, yeah.
Nice. Well, that's pretty cool. Have you gotten to travel some with doing any performing, maybe modeling, maybe burlesquing? Is there? Yeah,
actually. So not so much with modeling, believe it or not, even as many years. But I recently actually got to perform in Panama at the Panama Burlesque Festival.
Cool.
So that was amazing. That put me up to international status.
No doubt.
And I've traveled around New Mexico, and we're actually talking about getting a show running in Cheyenne, Wyoming, because Wyoming really doesn't have anything right now. And I'd like to at least get a monthly show going for them. I apply to festivals all over. I'm also looking forward to hearing from Ireland. So I'm hoping I'm going there this year.
That would be cool.
Yeah, that one's exciting.
Yeah.
And Hawaii, things, and it's a great thing because it's pretty much universal in most places. Like, you can go to most places in the world and get to perform burlesque.
I suppose,
And, that's definitely something that I'm trying to build up more, is a lot more travel at this point.
Yeah, for sure. Could probably set yourself a yearly tour almost if you can get enough dates set out through the year, probably. But
yeah, we're actually in talks of a national tour for this year, hoping to get to that. So, yeah.
Do you, just thinking from a kind of a marketing standpoint, do you just phone other clubs and find out if there's opportunities like that? Or how do you make that networking connection across the globe?
Social media is pretty much the way to go on most of it. You talk to other producers in the business, and it's all networking. It's basically all networking. And a lot of it isn't what you know, it's who you know.
Usually.
And they can help guide you, and, just talk to all the other performers and producers you possibly can, and they help you get set up in the right directions for whatever you're trying to bring.
Sure. Yeah. No, sometimes you wonder how those things all come together, but it's a lot of people talking and getting to know each other, right?
Oh yeah, yeah, it really is. I mean, it's a huge thing. We're like a global family,
I suppose.
you know. It could, because honestly, you can reach out anywhere across the world and say, "Hey, I'm wanting to travel to your area. Can you hook me up with a spot in your show?"
Sure.
And they can usually help you find a show
Nice.
that you can join. And that's amazing, you know.
It
It's
is.
just incredible to be able to talk to somebody from an entirely different country
Yes.
and be
Yeah.
able to connect with them in the same genre that you're in.
Yeah. Well, that's
And so yeah, it's all networking, all networking.
cool. No, that's good to know. I think a lot of people always kind of wonder if, people that are stars or performers or whatever, if it's just a click and you're all together the way it goes, right? But it's a lot of work in the background to make that all happen, isn't it? Like,
A lot of work.
a lot of work. Yeah.
It's a lot of work, yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of time and energy goes into it.
Yeah.
You've got to stay relevant in the business. You do.
Right.
You've got to stay relevant and stay on top of things and keep your name out there. Applying for shows is big. You get on every burlesquer's page, that you can possibly get on, especially on like Facebook and Instagram. Those are great ones for networking in burlesque. It really is. And modeling, to be honest, because that's where I find the majority of my photographers that will hit me up and say, "Hey, I like your look. Would you be interested in collaborating?" Or,
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think that social media has really changed burlesque and modeling in so many ways.
Yes.
It's brought it to the masses, so to speak.
Sure. Some pros and some cons and all of that, of course, but it's a change and evolution as anything, right? So
Absolutely.
what are some things that people should be cautious of, Misty? And whether they're getting into modeling or they're getting into burlesque, and there's always the creepers, there's always the sketchy things, right? So
there's always predators out there, always. Yeah. With modeling, one of the biggest things I always tell my people, if you're going out to a shoot with a new photographer or a photographer that you're not real in tune with, especially if it's somebody you haven't really worked with a lot, always take somebody with you. I mean, you should. And if they tell you that they don't want you to take somebody with you, don't go. Just absolutely do not go.
That's a no.
Research people. Make sure that you know what they do, kind of shows they're putting on, or what kind of shoots they're wanting to do. Make sure that they vibe with your vibe.
Sure.
Because if you get to say you get to a shoot and you weren't aware that it was something you're not comfortable with, you're wasting your time and their time and putting yourself in a very uncomfortable position. So just always research. And like I said, make sure that you either have somebody with you or that you always tell somebody where you're going to be, who you're going to be with. That's just really important. And for shows, for burlesque shows, again, word of mouth. Keep your ears and eyes open about places, because there are places you don't want to perform that are their security is not where it should be. And things get through. There was a place where I used to perform quite often that somebody came in and shot people. So we've literally, the LGBTQ community was hit very hard with that one in our area. And so we watch out for each other.
Yeah.
That is one thing. If you're either way, again, modeling or burlesque, the networking thing helps.
Sure.
Because people will tell you if there's somebody sketchy, if there's somebody going around trying to be a photographer, but he's really just a guy with a camera.
Yeah, there's a few of them.
And it's usually the cell phone camera, right?
Where's the equipment, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, make sure that who you're working with is reputable and you
Right.
have backup or you have people notified. Using your head, be
Sure.
be street smart about it because you can't just trust everybody.
No, that's good advice. Yeah, absolutely. Things that sometimes you know that, but if you go to get a booked with a shoot or you see a photographer that looks really awesome, you're like, I just want to do this. But, any scenario, it's better just to have a little bit of a double check to make sure everything's okay, right? Or take that person with you. So get yourself in a pickle pretty fast. So.
And it never hurts to have a chaperone with you, It
Sure.
really doesn't. If you're doing a particular shoot that you're not that comfortable with them seeing something, just ask them to turn around while you're doing that part, but they're still in the room and they're still making sure everything's kosher.
That's right. Keep yourself safe, right? So
absolutely.
Shifting gears a little bit about Misty. What's something people don't know about you behind the scenes and that sort of thing?
Well, everybody knows everything about me pretty much.
You did say you were pretty open, so yeah.
I am. My children know what I do. Like I said, my daughter's even following in my footsteps. She's been modeling since she was 14 or 15.
Okay.
So, and I do have an 18-year-old son as well, and he knows what I do.
Sure.
These are things that it's really difficult to try and hide.
Yes.
Especially if you're performing, because
part of your life.
Yeah, people get to know you and they're going to recognize you, and that would really be weird if somebody called me Lolita and he was like, who, what?
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah, I'm really close to my children and they are very supportive of what I do.
That's awesome.
That's something people don't always know about me.
Sure.
I have a great support base.
Good. That's a huge piece. What about for other parents that are maybe struggling with that or trying to figure that out? What's a good way to manage that? Because, obviously your kids you've been in your profession for longer than they've been around. So how did you have those conversations as they were growing up and that kind of thing?
I've just been that kind of person that I always thought I want my kids to know the good and bad about me. We don't get into certain things, but I want them to know like the mistakes I've made and the triumphs I've made, so that they can either avoid those or
learn from it somehow,
make their own path. Yeah. And I think being open and honest and not making it such a big deal, kind of help, because you can just say, hey, I do this. Okay. It's not a great big deal. Some parents go play pinochle and other parents go twirl tassels.
There you go.
And it's also helped them to accept who they are deep down. And they also have seen, because I'm still doing this at such a later age, that there's no limits. They've learned that. And I think that that's important for parents of even small children. You don't have to get into everything about it, but hey, my daughter used to love like some of my costume pieces. She thought like the big feather boas were cool as hell.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And so, it's got to be a balance. There is a balance, and I just think that if more people were more open about who they are and what they do, that more people would be forced to accept. Right. I think that's kind of why I've always been so open, is because everybody just kind of is like, okay, whatever she wants to do.
Right.
I've always gotten away with everything. It's like, oh, Misty's into this. Okay, well, this is how she is.
She is, yeah. Yeah. And probably it would beat a lot of people are so judgmental of others, and knowing that we all have our own stick in our own eyes that we got to pull out once in a while, right? Like humanity can
Right.
be pretty evil to each other just because we're so judgmental and we're so worried about our own thing going on that we don't want to expose. And better just to, like you say, be who you are, right? So
Well, it's real hard to have any dirt on you when you've already shown everybody the dirt, Like nobody can say, "Oh, I'm going to go tell so and so that you're doing this." Well, okay. They've
great,
probably
perfect.
come to my shows.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe we'll sell a ticket.
Well, that guy probably already subscribes to my OnlyFans, so I'm sure they know.
Yeah, is what it is. Yeah.
It is. And,
Yeah.
that's just how I've always lived.
How do you, I mean, maybe not even in that sense, but I mean, there's a lot of pressure being so open with your life. How do you keep going when things are difficult or you've met challenges? How do you push through?
I I draw a lot of strength through my family and friends. And I've struggled with a lot of depression and anxiety in my life. Obviously therapy has been a big part of healing and
Yes.
and I feel like I've done a lot of that. And I'm very spiritual and draw
Cool.
from the energy of the universe, and I'm one of those people, just if I say that's how I want things, that's how it's going to be, one way or the other. And
Right.
so I draw strength from that. I just know that the universe has my back,
Hmm.
one way or the other.
Keep pushing forward. And
Yeah.
no, that's cool. I don't know how to say that, but so many people, they try and get through life and I don't know if they don't think that there's more to the world than the realm that we live in, but I think they're missing a big piece of it because if you try and do things just in your own strength, it's really, really tough without outside forces, right? So
It really is. I think that, religion, I don't feel
compelled to.
real good about
Sure. No
organized
problem.
religion, but spirituality, I believe, is actually necessary for
Mm,
people. I think some kind of belief system, some kind of faith, even if it's in themselves or just in the world, how the world works and the energy in the world. I
sure.
think that's pretty necessary, because how do you continue to go on with things if you don't have some kind of faith somewhere?
Yeah. No, I agree with you. It's so important. And yeah, whether we like it or not, optimism is something that I strive for, but there are tough days in between all that. And like you say, with depression and that kind of thing, you face those dark times
Oh
too.
boy,
So,
are there. Yeah. And I'm fortunate that I have a pretty positive outlook, and I'm a big one for fake it till you make it.
sure.
Even if you don't really totally believe in yourself,
Right.
pretend you do for a while.
See what happens. Eh?
Affirmations is huge with me, because you can tell yourself anything, and self-talk is so important.
Sure.
Like if I'm feeling really anxious, if I tell myself I release all my anxiety, I release all my anxiety, and keep saying it, eventually it
It
sticks in
goes.
my mind and the anxiety is gone. So, I think the mind has everything to do with how your life is.
Absolutely.
It's
Powerful.
all what you want to make.
Sure.
Plus, I never play by any of the rules in life anyway. So,
Rules are lame. Yeah.
yeah.
What what's on Misty's agenda for the next few years? What are some big things you're trying to knock off the list there of things to do yet?
A lot more travel. A
Nice.
lot more travel. I just want to take my burlesque as far as I can take it. The modeling kind of follows in and meshes in with it.
Sure.
I'm not as into the modeling part anymore, because the burlesque is just so fulfilling.
Yeah. There you go.
But I want to do a lot more shows, a lot more creation, a lot more collaboration with other people, traveling the world. I mean, that's just kind of where my mindset is and where I'm heading.
Nice. Those are big things to knock off and to make kind of happen, right? So it takes a lot of your focus to
Absolutely.
make that
I
happen.
have there's no signs of me stopping anytime soon. I've got at least another 30 years or so. So
Perfect. Perfect. How do people follow you if they want to follow you on social media or get in contact with you, book you somewhere?
they can follow me on my Facebook and my Instagram under my real name, Misty Reardon. I'm on OnlyFans under Shadows Lola 1, and they can also email me. I put that out on my social media also. That's usually the easiest way if they're wanting to book me.
Sure.
Facebook, Instagram, or email. And my email is jmrear74@gmail.com.
Well, those will be on the screen here somewhere. They'll also be in the description as well. So if anybody's interested in connecting with Misty a little more, yeah.
And they can also view me on YouTube. I do have my Lolita Shadows, all of my burlesque acts
YouTube.
I throw up there so people can see that. And that's a great way to book shows as well for newer performers. Get videos because they're going to want them.
Perfect.
Yes.
My favorite question, I ask it to everybody, and I know certain stages it matters more than others, but you know, and you've got a pretty good following on social media already, but if something happens overnight and you go completely viral and you've got 5 million followers or something by tomorrow morning, what's a big message you want to tell people that are listening and following you?
Don't hold back. Just don't hold back. Follow your bliss. That is the most important thing in life. It is not following a dollar, it's following your bliss.
Yes.
If it makes you happy and fulfilled, then it's right for you. You know, and basically to hell what other people say.
Honestly.
Because you're the only one that's got to live this life, and you got to live it as full out and beautifully as you can.
Well said. Absolutely. That's so great. Thank you so much, Misty, for joining us and sharing your journey and your story. It's, you know, not a lot of people get to, you know, in their mid-50s and get to talk on a podcast about the journey they've had. So I think it's pretty awesome. Congratulations on that. And thank you for sharing and inspiring others. So
thank you so much.
Take care for now, and hopefully we'll catch up with you down the road somewhere there too. So
sounds great. Thank you.
Thanks, Misty.